All right, guys, welcome back to another YOSTBUILT video. So tonight, what we are going to go over, and hopefully you guys can learn something new. And if you guys don't learn something new, or you see something that I say wrong, you can leave down in the comments below what you thought I said wrong. So tonight, if you're reading the title, you're already going to know what this video is about. But we are going to show you the difference between a SRT-4, a standard 2.4, and a standard 2.0. These come in single cam and dual cam configurations. Right here you see the single cam plate. This motor has pistons and rods, was built, made 350 wheel horsepower. The dude took this out to put an SRT-4 motor in because he hit the 350 horsepower mark, and that was kind of the limitation. This is an SRT-4 motor. Very simple. A lot of you know what an SRT-4 is. This is a Caravan Stratus 2.4 liter. That is the motor that belongs in the CSX. If you guys watched a few videos, you've seen us with the CSX a bunch of times. That is the motor that ate the cams, head gasket issue, no oil, boom. So today we went for a drive and we picked up a new short block for it. So in this video, I'm going to show you all the differences. And we have all the motors right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have about 8 heads out. So there's a lot of differences, and I'm going to try to explain everything mechanical with the short blocks and with the heads that are different. So let's get right into it. So 2 liter, your crank sensor is right here. SRT-4, your crank sensor is right here. Standard 2.4, your crank sensor is on the other side of the motor. That is the main difference that I see electronics wise. So another thing you can see really easy is your knock sensor. Very important when tuning. Knock sensors are an amazing thing. Well, this knock sensor for your 2 liter is actually all the way down here at the bottom of the sleeve. So for the tuners, you know, you'll see a little bit different of a configuration on reading knock compared to a knock sensor at the top of the sleeve, like an SRT-4 motor. Well, this SRT-4 motor and this 2.4, boom, they're both at the top. So that's a quick thing that you can see that's different. Also, these motors come with these plastic pipes. These come with a steel pipe. These come with a steel pipe. And then the intake manifolds, some of them have the water pipe that go through it, some of them don't. It depends on the variant of the motor, minivan or Stratus or whatever comes in with it. These come with a steel oil pan. These come with an aluminum oil pan. These motors, the oil filter is located, we actually just pulled it apart, but the oil filter stuff is located right here. Whereas these motors, the oil filter is actually onto the actual oil pump. Another big difference. You can see the 2 liter, the oil pump is actually on the back over here. Another big difference. So the height of these 2 blocks is different than the height of this block. This block is actually physically shorter in the middle. So of course your 2.4s, you can see this block and that block look exactly the same height wise. Like I said, the oil pump on the SRT-4 of course is different because of the filter being here. So your oil pump goes down here, your oil filter goes over here. Another, noticeable difference is you have a water port for your turbo and an oil port for your turbo and an oil return for your turbo over here. The all motor version, which will come in a Stratus, you have a oil sensor, you have a port here. You can see it's blocked off. There's, you're not getting water out of this. So they use what is the oil sensor here on the SRT-4s is actually your oil feed for your turbo. Your block, top of the blocks right here. The only difference between a standard 2.4 and a SRT-4 is this return right here. So you see this return is kind of this oval weird shape, and this one has a little weird shape to it. If you look on these motors, which is the all motor car, it's perfectly round and perfectly round. So when I was talking in the video a while back about why we have the 420A head on this block and not that block, if you put this hole or the 420A that matches this hole on this block, you're gonna have an oil leak right here with the gasket. We actually have a 420A gasket right here. You can see the holes are round and round. So if you actually lay this gasket on this block, look at that. There's where your oil leak will be. A lot of people have put RTV or whatever, kind of a ghetto way of doing it, whatever, but that's what some people do. So this is a 420A or 2.4 head gasket on an SRT-4 block. There is the big difference. So in this port right here, that's that kind of awkward shape. Well, with the gasket being round, it kind of covers it up, but it's not perfect. So like I said, here's the differences in the block. Now, the crank is actually different because your crank trigger sensor is here, and on this block, your crank trigger sensor is on the other side. So let's go over here to this cranks, and I'll show you the difference in just the cranks by themselves. So this right here would be the all motor 2.4 crank, and this right here would be an SRT-4 crank. They look exactly the same. Here's your balance shaft ring, here's your balance shaft ring, oil pump, your pulleys. Cranks look very similar. Here, your crank trigger wheel. Here is your crank trigger wheel. You can see that this is only about, there's this much of a gap. You can see this one has a lot more teeth. So you have a lot more teeth for the crank trigger to read on an SRT-4 compared to the all motor car. A lot of tuning softwares and stuff like that do not like this. They prefer this because it's a lot more accurate. It's a lot easier for tuning. If you guys know anything about SRT-4s, yes, they break input shafts, yada, yada, yada. Me personally, this crank looks a little stronger. I've never really seen anybody break the crank on a 2.4, but these reluctor wheels for the crank trigger on SRT-4s, these are actually known to like bend and bind up. And when that happens, of course, you lose the trigger and the car doesn't run very well. So now that we've went over the short block and the crankshafts, the 2-liter crankshaft is literally same thing like this, just a 2-liter. Now we can look into the cylinder heads. So this cylinder head, actually these 3 cylinder heads are 420A style cylinder heads, right? Very simple. Head studs, lifters, rollers, cams. They all exactly the same, right? This cylinder head over here is, don't mind the valve cover, it's not a turbo motor. This is a all motor 2.4 head. So the 420A and the all motor 2.4 heads are literally identical. They're just flipped around. So if you look straight onto this head, you see right here is your intake ports on the front of the head. You see right here is your exhaust ports on the back of the head. If we go over to this intake manifold, or this head, not intake manifold, on this head, here's the front, here's the back. On this one, your intake manifold goes on the back of the head, and your header goes on the front of the head. Biggest difference. That's literally the easiest way to explain it. They bolt up, they both work, yada, yada, yada. There's not, you can look. I'll even open it up for you. Looks exactly the same. Same lifter style, same, everything is the same. Now, when it comes to the SRT-4, the SRT-4 head is like this head in similarity of intake on the front, manifold on the back. But the SRT-4 heads are a little bit different. So an SRT-4 head, I know this one is open. An SRT-4 head internally looks exactly the same, right? This one is built, has valve springs and trainers, everything. Pretty little valve cover. This head is also ported. There's a stock. You see 2 fingers. You see 2 fingers. Look at the gap. Look at the gap. Now these heads, if you flip them up like this actually has 1 millimeter over valves for intake and exhaust. This one doesn't. Oh, this one's heavy. So you can see the size of the valves. They're a little bit smaller in this head. These 420A heads you don't need the 1 millimeter valves, 1 millimeter over valves. The factory 420A heads have large valves. Like the valves are really large. So your basic 1 millimeter over built SRT-4 head is equivalent to a stock style 420A head. Now, if you take all of this information into consideration when you're building one of these motors, our CSX, of course, uses 2.4 all motor style block. What we do is put forged pistons, forged rods. We put a 420A head because our setup is turbo on the front, exhaust manifold on the front, intake manifold on the back. Now, if you're swapping one of these motors into, say, an MR2 or something like that, and there's not enough room on the front of the back, you can kind of do what you need by swapping heads or blocks or whatever. You just got to take into consideration the crank trigger. Because if you actually put, this head on this block, you'll have your oil leak on your return. If you, go to wire it up, it's not going to run right. So that is the long-worded, drawn-out differences between a 2-liter single cam or dual cam. They both use the same exact short blocks. You can literally take your dual cam 2-liter head and bolt it right on your your single cam 2-liter block. The block themselves are exactly the same. You can see that this mating surface looks exactly like this mating surface. There's very little differences. These holes are a little bigger, and that's about it. The dial pins, everything is in the exact same spot. So you can literally just swap it over. One thing that a lot of you Honda guys that are watching this video will notice is that, here, let me turn this motor over. This is what surprised me the most about an SRT-4, is that the pistons themselves don't come anywhere near the top of the deck. So I find it interesting. Hopefully the pin's in this motor, so it will turn over. That is top dead center. Look at this gap. You can stick my whole finger in this gap and look at the design of that piston. So this is a 100% stock SRT-4 short block, and look, I can turn it. See the piston go down? Look at that quench area right there. So these motors, of course, have different pistons and rods. An SRT-4 motor comes with a lot stouter of a rod from the factory, and the piston design is a little bit different than the all-motor car. This is an all-motor piston for a 2.4. There's your turbo piston. The rod for these, they're good to about 250 wheel, 300 wheel horsepower, and they are floating pin. The pin is stuck on the rod. A lot of people have made over 450 horsepower stock SRT-4 internals. They don't break. Those are pretty stout motors. This single cam, of course, like I said earlier, is built. But if you rotate this motor, let me see if I can rotate it. Of course, now it's going to be stubborn because I have the camera with one hand. But you can see right here, this is the top ringland. The piston still doesn't come to the top, even with aftermarket flat tops. These are, I think, 9-to-1 pistons. The piston still doesn't come to the top, so you have that good quench area. And if you guys, Honda guys, have noticed, these are all cast iron blocks. The one thing I can say about turbo Dodges, or even their all motor setups, these blocks don't break. I've seen people make 800-900 horsepower, 1,000 horsepower stock block. You don't need to do anything to it. They are a closed deck, of course. All of them are closed deck. They don't need sleeved unless you're doing something crazy. But that'll be the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions about any of the 2-liter all motor stuff, 2-liter turbo stuff, 2.4 all motor, 2.4 turbo, SRT-4. As you can tell, we have a bunch. Actually, let me show you the one thing that I forgot totally about in this video. This is a SRT-4 motor connected to a 904 transmission. If you guys don't know what a 904 is, It is a old school rear wheel drive, 3-speed automatic. This is some brackets off, I believe, a Jeep or Durango, or not Durango, Dakota, something like that. I believe this thing has Crowler Stage 1s, cam gears, SRT-4 internals, you know, the whole 9 yards. But this is our dummy motor that we're going to put in our 63 Valiant. This is this little log turbo manifold. Another thing you'll guys notice is that SRT-4 guys love their log manifolds. Those things are stout. They do not crack. They do not break. They're really stout motors. Timing setup. They all pretty much look like the same gear down here. That's pretty much it. So you can see the oil filter. Like I said, the other one doesn't have it on the pan, but there's what it actually looks like. That will be the end of this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you guys are Honda guys watching this video, let me know what you think about that cast iron block. These things are heavy. They're really heavy. And as I was talking to my brother, I thought it was really funny to point out that they literally write 2.0 on the side of the block. So you can't even, like, you know, BS people where you have a GSR or whatever and you just leave GSR and, you know, make the motor bigger, whatever you want to do with it. They actually put 2.0 on the block. I thought it was pretty funny. But leave down in the comments below what you think about all the motors. We do have a new motor for the CSX. We are working on it. I'll probably do a video of us putting it together. We do have pistons. We do have rods. Everything's here. I think we have to order one thing. And I think that is... Actually, no, I don't think we have to order one thing. Nope. Our bearings are right here. Oh, another thing I wanted to add to the video. We have oil pump gears. So these are billet oil pump gears. Don't even need to say the name. They're already there. And we also have these trigger wheels. These, I think, are on back order right now, but we have one. This is a Real Tune billet trigger tone wheel. Like I said, they're known for, once you get to 800 horsepower, the wheel actually bends and you lose communication to the computer. So we have the billet trigger wheel. We have everything we need to put a 2.4 all motor style motor. We're going to put internals in it, of course, for turbo. And we have everything to put an SRT-4 motor together for 600 to 800 horsepower setups. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, as always, give it a thumbs up. Give YOSTBUILT a sub and share it with some friends. If you guys want any information about any of this, and we might have some parts for sale, if you need any parts, let us know. DM us on Facebook at YOSTBUILT. You can find us on there. And hope you guys enjoyed. As always, you guys are the greatest.